always do, I am recording this so that we could post it in our Facebook group later for people to watch. But James, yeah, thanks again for jumping on and taking the time. I know, especially with Bold going on, very busy schedule I'm sure you have right now. But
I'm happy to see you guys. I love being able to talk to people. It's nice to head out west for a minute. And here's the thing. I heard Stephanie talking about her run. So I'm not going to get chased by snakes. I might get chased by alligators. And I thought one was chasing me yesterday. I'm just going to be real honest with you. So you got to be careful out there. It doesn't matter where you live. Something wants to eat you.
That's why I don't live in Australia. Everything wants to eat you out there.
Yeah, that's right. There you go. Well, Alex, thanks for having me. Happy to talk with your people.
Yeah, thanks so much. Well, I kind of let everybody know, I definitely, every Wednesday we do a Shift Mastermind, for our market center. And, I thought this was a perfect thing, especially, and a lot of the faces in here that I'm seeing, they signed up for Bold as well, and which is great. But I definitely wanted to go ahead and let you, kind of take the lead, but at the same time, we do have, a couple of questions that people had, and then we'll turn to them, as well.
Yeah, well, let's do that. First, I want to thank everybody for signing up for Bold Pivot. It was cool yesterday. There are, I just got the most recent number. It's something like almost 41,000 people enrolled in Bold Pivot. Last year's Bold was the biggest Bold we'd ever had for a whole year, 29,000. And this Bold Pivot has 41. And for the most part, it went well yesterday. I mean, there were about 200 people that didn't understand that you don't need to live stream yourself. So that was kind of crazy. I trust that none of your people were one of them. I spent like 20 minutes deleting people's live streams. One guy with a Diet Coke, that's all I showed for like 2 hours was his Diet Coke can. So, oh man. Other than that though, I thought Bold Pivot went real well yesterday, and thank you to all your people who are participating. Coach's Corner comes up in a little less than an hour. So you'll want to jump over there, and I think Rob Daniel and Jake Ginger and a couple other coaches are going to be answering questions and just helping people out.
Nice. Okay, great. That's good to know. Well, thanks for sharing that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, so, kind of with that being said, guys, I kind of feel like this hour will probably actually go by pretty fast. So, we'll jump right into it. And James, I think the number one question, I think, just like any of our, the KW books, that Gary has been a part of, right? It's mindset and action, right? And so probably lead with that question, right? With everybody you're seeing, especially with you talking with people across the country, what is the very first thing that we could be doing from a mindset aspect during this shift, during this pandemic?
Well, okay. That's a great question, Alex. I appreciate you leading off with that. Most of the time when I jump on these videos, they ask, what should I be doing? And I got to redirect them, and we got to go, who are we first, right? So I think right now community matters more than ever. And I've kind of thought about what is community really? Like what does community represent? What's it really about? And I've come up with two things that I think community does for you. The first thing is your community should inspire hope. And then the second thing is your community should promote progress. So if the community you're in, and that's part of mindset, right? Hope and progress. So if the community you're in isn't giving you hope and promoting progress, you probably need to be in a different community. And Alex, I think community is more than just who I hang out with. I think community really is who and what I hang out with. And here's how I'd look at that. Not only who are you hanging out with, like getting on this, like this is a good community, Alex. You're creating a community here of people that are like-minded and moving in the right direction. I don't know if any of your people are on the Pivot Shift Ahead group that I started. Anybody on that? No, you don't know.
Yes, I'm on that. I'm on that.
Who said that? Aaron?
Yeah.
So Aaron, when I started that on some random Saturday, I had no idea that we'd have 70,000 people in there, later. And I'm doing these calls at 8 o'clock Eastern, which I think right now for you guys is 5, right? Are we 3 hours different now this time?
Correct.
Yeah. So it's 5 o'clock in the morning, which I know is early, and Steph can listen while she's out on a run, and Aaron too. So the reason I started that is because we needed a sense of community. And I'm going to put in here for your people that aren't in it, I'm going to put the link in.
Yeah, please do.
And then I'll explain. So hold on one second, because I can't do too many things at once. So that's the link. I put it in. So that community's job is to inspire hope and promote progress. So you got to hang out with people that are doing that, number one. Number two if you live with somebody who isn't doing that for you, you've got to have a conversation with them about the house, who are not inspiring hope and promoting progress. You got number out with. So how much time are you spending on social media? What are you reading? How much time are you scrolling Twitter? Are you watching the news? And you know, what books are you reading? What shows are you watching? What conversations are you having? What's your environment? And I think that matters a lot right now. I was going through a challenge in the beginning of this. So my background is news. I worked in TV news before I got into real estate. And so when stuff like this happens, I want to watch news. I want to see what's going on. I want to be updated. And it was pulling me down, Alex. It was bad. And so I finally just said, I'm going to leverage that out. If something important happens, I'll count on somebody else to tell me about it. And they are. And so that's been the thing. I'm not watching anything that isn't going to make me either laugh or lift my spirit. And I'm definitely like, there isn't anything on a news station at 8, 9, or 10 p.m. that's of any value. And be careful what you're reading on Twitter and on your social media. So that would be the thing about mindset. Think about your community. Is it giving you hope and is it inspiring progress? And if it's not, start hanging out in a community that is. My goal with Pivot Shift Ahead is to do exactly that. The call I do every morning for 20 minutes is to give you hope and inspire progress. And then the other stuff they're adding in there should do the same. So I just want to make sure your community is doing that for you.
Well, yeah. And you know what, I obviously have heard of your name before, but of course, you know, I start doing what we all do, start digging around social media, right? And I know, you know, not real estate related, but you talk about that community and you have your Positively Dad as well, right? That you do. And
yeah, so I started this podcast a year ago called Positively Dad because there isn't a lot of content for dad. If you go look, most parenting content's for mom. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up and looking it up. So I did start this podcast for dad, and that's to help the mindset through there. And it's a good resource you can share with your dad. An email agent in Jacksonville, she emailed out my podcast to her whole database to say, hey, parents, are things tough right now? Go check out this Positively Dad podcast. So yeah, you're welcome to share that. In fact, I'll put my Instagram handles in there too. This is my personal one, and I'll put the podcast. Alex, you're so cool to bring that up. Thanks, man.
Well, you know what? I'm a fairly new dad myself, right? I got a 4-year-old and a 1.5-year-old, right? And
goodness gracious, sakes alive.
Yeah,
that is crazy. Well, you better be listening to the podcast because there's a lot of stuff on there that I think could help you.
For sure. But you know, and I bring it up primarily because that was a great segue. But you brought up the communities, right? Like, what are we allowing into our world, right? You know, because I've seen it with the agents that I'm talking to out there, right? As a team leader, everybody knows here that I'm talking with other agents and other, you know, with other brokerages and even within our own brokerage. And you want to, you know when the mindset isn't right? And that's where it all starts. You know, I mean, it doesn't matter if it's personal or
if
business.
your mindset is junky, this is what I said this morning. If I don't know if any of you are my Facebook friend, I think I'm out of room for Facebook friends. So you can follow my Facebook. And I've been doing this I started this week, a little 5-minute thing. And I said today, this is hard. It doesn't have to be horrible. And you decide if it's horrible. I think overall, what we're experiencing is hard. You get to decide whether or not it's going to be horrible. And hold on, I'm getting some feedback. I don't know if that's me. Okay. So you get to decide if it's going to be horrible or not. So Alex, you're exactly right. If your mindset is junky, then stop. Don't call anybody. Don't do anything. And let's tackle the mindset first. I have a podcast episode coming out tomorrow. I talked to a guy about just your mental well-being right now. And that's an important piece. Did you know that calls to like suicide prevention hotlines are up 800%? So if your mental state is not good, that's a problem. You want to get that figured out pretty quickly, Alex. Mask on, right? I don't mean like your mask to go to the grocery. You know, think on the airplane, you put your mask on first and take care of you and then go out and get after it. Until your mindset's set, though, nothing else is relevant.
Well, that's awesome. As a matter of fact, like tomorrow at 10 o'clock, I even, you know, ironically through my consulting and recruiting efforts, met an agent with another brokerage, but she's like, I barely do real estate. I'm actually a counselor first. A therapist is actually my primary. And we got to talking, and I actually have her coming on tomorrow because I go.
Yeah, that'll help your people. That's
yeah.
really good.
And we look up and I go, it is mindset, right? Like, I know it in this role, right? Like in every role that I've had in real estate, you can easily kind of drive yourself down a dark rabbit hole if you're not careful, right? And even if it's not, you know, to the extreme, like you just mentioned, like suicide, right, up 800%. But sometimes we can say, I don't need to do those. I don't need to lead gen right now. People don't want to hear from me.
Well, that's not true. I mean, that's complete rubbish. On page 24, Gary says, you cannot control the market. You can control your outlook and your response to it. And that know that while everyone won't succeed in this shift, some will and anyone can. You must be and anyone can. This isn't a short-term attitude you adopt, but a lifelong posture you take. It's a journey you embark on led by the mental choices that you make. Be certain of this, your mindset matters. And he goes on to talk about that most of us just kind of lead with the flows of life. When things are pretty good, we feel good. When things are rough, we don't feel good. He says, what we fail to realize is that all boats float at high tide, and no captain gets credit for that. When times get tough and the tide goes out, all of a sudden, not everything works. Their boats don't float, and we have to be quick to adjust and be prepared for a low tide. And then here's another one. Know that it's always a good time to be in the real estate market when you take a long-term view of the market instead of getting caught up in the short-term volatility. And that's true for us as agents. We've got to have a long-term view of this, of what our opportunity is long-term. The mind share we gain right now will lead to market share later. And you might be, I don't know if anybody in your market center feels like they're working twice as hard for half as much. I feel that way. A lot of people I talk to feel that way. And there will be a payoff on that, though, if you put in the work now. So can we move then from mindset to action?
Yep. Perfect.
Okay, because he says, once you've gotten real, you have to get right into action and into the right action. For all the necessity of knowing what to do, taking the right action now is just as necessary. All right, so I'm in the Tampa Bay area of Florida. So we're 90 minutes from Magic Kingdom. And when it's open, you can go in it. And there's signs for whenever they have construction, they'll put up Walt Disney quotes. And one of my favorite Walt Disney quotes is this: the way you get started is to quit talking and begin doing. And Alex, now's the time for us to get to work. And we have to remember something. What worked for you 7 or 8 weeks ago doesn't work anymore. And what mattered to you 7 or 8 weeks ago no longer matters anymore. Like, it's changed. And so I think for an action standpoint, it really, and if anyone has been in the pivot page, I think, Aaron, you said you have, and if you've watched any of the calls, it's no surprise on the action. It is 40 contacts every day. Like, that number is not an optional number. It's not, I'd love to make that happen number. Oh, that would be cool if I pulled that off number. Alex, it's a mandatory number, 40 contacts. And until you have mastered the 40 contact game, then nothing else really matters in your business.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah. And I love you bringing that up. And you know what, man, I just messaged everybody, or close to everybody. If I didn't, I need to get you added in there if I overlooked you, but started like a Facebook Messenger chat box, right? With a group chat, like with everybody that joined Bold in our market center. And that was like my takeaway, because I'm all DTD2. Anybody who's met with me, they're just like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, teach me, right? Whatever. But, and Bold yesterday, when they threw up DTD4, right? Yeah. And you just looked up and you're like, dude, it is time. Like, we don't have time, right? DTD2, we don't have 13 weeks to get in touch with our database, right? Like, we have now.
No, you don't. Well, Gary says done. I trust your people watch the video that Gary Keller and Jay Papasan did on the 16th of March. And they spoke to us, and Gary said, you have to double down on your lead gen right now, which is why I said 40 contacts. I've been saying 40 contacts since I started my shift calls on the 16th of March. I said 40 contacts because Gary said 40 contacts, or Gary said double down. So the 40 contacts, and here's the deal. You can choose not to make it. That is totally fine. It is your choice. You got the freedom to choose. You can do whatever you want. If you don't do it, then what you risk doing is donating business to other agents in your marketplace, because someone's going to make the calls. And so you got to make them. Let me, before you freak out about how that looks, and I think Steve and Dusty covered this yesterday. Let me give you, though, the strategy. It's 20 calls in the morning. Now, it's not calls, Alex, it's your contacts, right? So it's going to take more than 20 calls. And right now, with so many people being home and kids out of school and so on, you might only have to make 30 or 35 dials to get to 20 people. And then the other 20 you're going to do in the evening via text message or Facebook direct message or Instagram, whatever. And it's really cool. It's, you know, how are you? How are you doing? How's your family? Everybody, how can I help you? And then just what work life or home life. And they'll bring up real estate if you do that. You know, right. I call it the 3 C's: care, compassion, and common sense. You show care and compassion. Common sense will tell you whether or not you talk about real estate. If they bring it up, you do. If they don't bring it up, you don't. And that's what we do right now, 40 times a day. 20 on the phone in the morning, 20 in the evening, text or social media. You do that every day. I'm telling you, no one will forget about you. And then anybody on here doing stuff on social media, and I don't mean like doing ads. I mean, like, are you doing videos, you know, live videos, stuff like, anybody doing stuff like that? Okay.
I mean, I'm doing social media posts and.
What are you doing, Aaron? Tell me.
Just any marketing material that I could get from our title company. Even just talking about personal life stuff as well, and just putting it out there, not only on Facebook, the stories, Instagram, the stories, and then messaging people as well on both platforms.
Okay, good. So I think you should add every day you need to do a live. You need to do Facebook Live, Instagram Live for about 5 minutes to show that you are the local economist of choice. And there's and just for 5 minutes to jump on.
Okay.
And what that would do is, first of all, it proves that you're the local expert. Now, you don't even have to talk about real estate in that. You can talk about how you notice that, and I don't know what's going on in Arizona, that you notice, though, that your favorite restaurant is back open again. And you just wanted to give, you know, a shout out to that favorite restaurant. And then you might do a video on your new listing. And then once a week, you might go on and say, hey, I just want to update everybody on what's going on in the real estate market. You know, the news might say things are junky. Here's the truth. Here's what's really going on. And you give, you know, new listings, pendings, closings, whatever. Do a 5-minute live every day. I mean, it doesn't have to be 5 minutes. It's just, my point is it should be short. It doesn't need to be long. It could be short. And then it sits there on your page. I'm telling you, this is a way to connect with people and stay in their mind. And the person who probably does this, one of the best I've seen out of anybody, is Jenny Wolek out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. And Jenny does a great job with doing videos. You can find her on Facebook. There's many others.
How do you spell her last name?
Wolek. Her first name is Jennie. And there's many others, right? So this is not a new idea. Yeah. What I'm saying is, right now, because we're so disconnected physically from people, we've got to connect. And it's easier now than ever to connect. You jump on, you talk, you hold your phone up. I've been doing this in the morning now before my call. I do one on through Facebook on my phone. You just hold up your phone and talk. And it doesn't have to be particularly profound. It just needs to be something. So Alex, it's spelled with an I-E, Jennie. Yeah. Got it. So anywho, Aaron, good for you for doing some social media stuff. Because I think that's important. Stephanie, did you have a question? Your hand's up.
I have no idea what I just did. Sorry. Just waving at you guys, I guess. I'm on my phone.
We see you. There you go. Well, we see your picture. Yeah, we see your picture.
Oh.
So, that's good. Well, thanks for waving to us, Jenny.
So,
Stephanie, not Jenny. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Alex, what else you got? I hope this is what you're looking for.
It is. I love this, man. I mean, again, you know, it's, I know we talk about sometimes the mindset portion of things can go on for too long, and I think you handle that great. Thank you for doing that and going right into
Well, we eventually have to get into production. I mean, get your mindset right and then get to work.
Yep.
And, you know, I think you've got to do that. You've got to smile and dial and talk to your people and get creative.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to get left behind.
So I know we're talking about this in bold and would love, you know, right here in this intimate setting. What are some lead generation tactics right now outside of Facebook and cold calling that you're seeing agents maybe implement right now?
Look, I hope, I don't know how to make this more clear. You've got to talk to your database every day. That's first. Okay. And then what I would ask everybody to do is go read pages 54 to 57 of Shift. In fact, I'll put this in the box for you. Shift. Whoops. You have to be really careful when you type out shift. I haven't done it yet. I've caught myself a couple of times. I haven't done it yet. So I'd go read page 54 to 57, Alex. And on page 54 to 57, what Gary does is an exercise to help you figure out what lead generation activities you should be doing. Because here's a common mistake agents make. They go, okay, market's changing, stuff's different, so I need to go add some strategies. I need more leads. I need to add strategies. That's a mistake. What we do is we double down on the stuff that's already working. Well, the problem is most agents don't know what's really working for them. They think they know what's working for them. They don't actually know. So until you do what Gary says, page 54 to 57, you actually won't know what's working. You do that exercise, and then go double down in those areas. So Alex, and whenever someone says, hey, what activities should we be doing? I say, well, it depends. Go read 54 to 57, figure out what's working for you, and then do more of that. That's what's working for you.
Awesome. Yep. Love that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we know we need to be productive, right? Be in the right mindset, go double down on what it is that we need to do. What are some, I know from Bold yesterday, get a role play partner, right? But what are some other ways that we can make sure we're holding ourselves accountable?
So Gary, yeah, that's a good question. Gary says in the chapter 9, and I just got, give me a second to find the page.
Come on, James, you don't have it memorized by now?
Most of it I do. Come on. What I noticed that popped up on my Facebook was almost a year ago, I taught Shift in Phoenix. Okay. And so some of you had a head start on this, right? I don't know. Okay, page 188. 188 of Shift, Gary says, this is the time to put your sales skills to work. A shifting market is a skill-based market. So he gives 4 things, Alex, that we've got to do, right? One is practice our scripts and dialogues. And we gave you one in Bold Pivot. I've shared scripts on the Shift Facebook group, so it's all there. So practice your scripts. Get into coaching. That's the next thing he says you have to do. You have to find a coach. So Bold Pivot is coaching. If you qualify, you should get into mastery coaching. Got to have a GCI of $150,000 or more. And so you can get into mastery. Get in with your productivity coach. Alex, I imagine you guys have productivity coach in your market center so they can get in PC coaching. So that's number 2. So number 1, again, is practice scripts. Number 2 is find a coach. Number 3, regular role play with a script partner. And somebody brought this up. I was doing a call earlier today in Palm Beach, West Palm Beach, Florida. And she said something to the effect of every time she doesn't role play with an agent, then she's actually role playing with a potential client, and their average commission's like 20 grand. So that's really expensive practice. So role play with an agent. So let's go back. Number 1, practice scripts. Number 2, get a coach. Number 3, regular role play with a partner. Number 4, get familiar with the proven best practices for helping buyers and sellers make good decisions. And so this is the time for you to be connected. Don't curl up in a ball and think you got it figured out. This is the time to be asking questions. Alex, I had a gentleman on my podcast one time who said the greatest superpower that all of us have is the ability to ask for help. And this is the time to ask for help. This is the time to call up another agent and said, oh my gosh, I talked to somebody and they said this, and I have no idea how to respond. This is what I said. What would you have said? Like, this is the time to be lead. There are many market centers that have all the agents logging onto a Zoom like this, Alex, and they're all lead generating together. They just keep it on mute. And then when questions pop up, they type in the chat box, hey, somebody help me with this. And that ability to make sure they're lead generating. Like, now's the time to increase that stuff. The agents that do are the agents who are going to win. I shared this morning. I don't know if you logged on, Alex, yesterday. We found out people don't understand how Facebook Live works. So that was cool. I mean, they were all watching themselves.
You said 200, right?
Something like that. It was nuts. And then overall, though, I thought yesterday was very good. Minus just the confusion some people had in the beginning. I thought for 40,000 people, they crushed it. Then I saw, though, a lot of people getting in the Facebook page this morning, and talking about mumbo jumbo, I said, why aren't you getting to work? And so I posted this quote from page 283 that says, a shift is an opportunity to get ahead or be left behind. The only question is, which one will it be for you? So, and it says time tends to reward effort and resilience. Are you putting in the effort, and do you have the resilience? Are you the one that's going to make it? Are you not only going to survive, are you going to thrive? And the choices that you make every day will determine which one of those you're going to be. You will get ahead or you'll get left behind based on the choices that you make daily. And I'm going to beg you, like I want to beg you, 20 conversations in the morning on the phone and 20 text messages at night. And if you're willing to do that, time will reward your effort and your resilience. And Alex, ultimately, that's so you go, what am I supposed to do? You practice and role play, you get into coaching, and you smile and dial, and you do the things you got to do, and you'll be just fine. You'll come out of this ahead.
Yep. That's awesome. All right, guys. Yes.
Yeah, Steven, go ahead, buddy.
I think one of the most irritating things I see on especially social media for me personally is when I see someone and they bought a new house and I'm like, I wasn't the real estate agent because I didn't reach out to them.
Right.
So,
Well, and how many of those checks can you write? Because that's a check you wrote to get out of lead generating.
Right.
And I don't know, what's your average commission over there?
9.
My average commission?
What's that, Alex?
9 to 10,000.
9 to 10,000. Let's call it 10 grand. So every time that happens to you, you pay $10,000 for training. You better get a return on it. You pay 10 grand to get out of your lead gen that week or day or whatever. And that's fine if you can still keep writing checks. What I said a couple months ago was the decisions you make today will determine whether or not you get checks or bills in the fourth quarter. And some of you are going to get bills that you can't pay. I want you to get checks. So Stephen, thanks for sharing that. It happens to all of us. By the way, it's happened to me. It's probably happened to every person on this line. Don't let it happen too many times because that's a $10,000 training class right there.
Yeah, very well put. Well, no, Stephen, I just to second that. I mean, thanks for bringing that up. And I mean, we all have those Facebook friends that we don't actually have in our phone book. And then more importantly, we don't have in command, right? So like, you're right? Is that somebody that you cemented a relationship with, right? We all, the model, right? 19 to connect, then cement the relationship, then 36 to convert, right? And so are we getting those people, right? Brian, you and I are talking about this almost every other day, right? It feels like. So get out there, get in touch with your people, get them into your world, right? Let them know that value is being a part of your world because you're going to follow up with them. So what other questions do you guys have for him that you'd like answered right now?
Going back to the video, do you see more interaction with the live video as opposed to a pre-recorded video than they post up? Because
so
the only reason I bring that up is because a lot of social media, I guess teachers would say that unless you have a huge audience, you shouldn't go live.
Well, people will watch it later.
Okay.
So, that's for example, the video that I do in the morning has about we probably have around 1,200 people who watch it live. The video each day, though, will get about 5,000 views. So most of the people are watching the recording.
Okay.
So I think what I like about a live video is its authenticity. Yeah. And the connection. So I don't really care. It's just really easy to go flip on your phone and go.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to do something, though, other than sit at home. We've got to leverage the technology in front of us. I was talking with Jay Papasan about this. He and I were doing the Shift Book Club together. And one thing we talked about was, thank goodness this happened in 2020 and not even like 2015.
Yeah.
Imagine what we can do now that even 5 years ago we couldn't have done. So, yeah, Aaron, I just want you good quality content that shows you're a hyper-local expert in real estate.
And that is no different, right? In the sense of Go just do it, Aaron, right?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
live video, just like you just need to make your calls, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Hey, Mario, you got a question, buddy?
I do, James. Thank you again for this opportunity. I was on yesterday's call and hearing this morning. I'm new to the area, about a year into the valley here in
Nobody's
Arizona.
really from Arizona,
And,
just like nobody's really from Florida. I understand. We're all running from something.
I was blessed with having grandkids here, but the bottom line is that 40 a day. I'm inputting my database right now with the help of Alex. We're going to upload it to Command. I don't know. I mean, 40 folks, 20 texting and 20 emails. What would you recommend to someone that's new to have an opportunity to meet that? I don't have a problem with making
everybody
calls.
in here. So even where just every person. So where are you from, Mario?
Lived 35 years in Northern Nevada, the Reno Sparks area around
Okay, great. So
Tahoe.
talk to all your people up there and refer stuff out. And then the other strategy I'd recommend, and Alex, walk him through this, is doing virtual open houses and leveraging the ad stuff that we can do through Command and Facebook to get people to it, to grow that pipeline. And I'm sure Alex can help you with that, or somebody in the market center can help you with that. Using lead aggregator stuff to help you with that. So that would be my recommendation. The other one is, are you in Bold Pivot, Mario?
Yes, I was on yesterday's
Okay, great.
class.
So here's what I'm going to ask you to do is go to the Files tab, and you're going to have to scroll and look for it. And what you're going to look for is a little form called the Memory Jogger. So I want you to look for a little form called the Memory Jogger. And it's like a 6-page PDF that literally, if you sit down and go through it, I bet you could add 100, 200, maybe 300 names to your database that you just either forgot about or didn't have in the first place that you probably should. So it's in the Files tab. We haven't talked about it in Bold yet. It's already in there, though. So go to the Files tab and then scroll down until you find Memory Jogger, and I think that'll help you out a ton.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for asking. Welcome to Arizona. You know what's fun, Alex? My sister used to live in Phoenix.
Nice.
She worked for the Suns, and then she got a job with this company that did retargeting. And anyway, so I did a half marathon while I was there that finished at the football field at Arizona State, and that's so cool. With the way where that football stadium, you know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, I know exactly where.
Brian's hat made me think of this, and where the football stadium is, and isn't Herm Edwards there now?
Yes, he is.
That's crazy. So anyway, that's so beautiful finish right there. I absolutely love that race in Phoenix. That was a lot of fun. I mean, well, ASU is in what? Tempe, right?
Yeah, Tempe. Yep,
Yeah.
Exactly. That's awesome.
Anyway, I love your area of the country. It's fantastic.
We love it here too. I know it's hard to leave.
Well, you don't have a choice now. You can't.
No. So, all right, guys. Any Brian, Aaron, Christine, any of you guys? Any other questions you've been wondering?
So what I did, I put my IG in there. Oh, go ahead, Brian. I'm sorry. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah. So for me, I've recently bought into Command and the whole idea of cementing relationships. I was very transactional, more relational.
Yeah.
So this I've adopted in the past 2 months or so. Mm-hmm. But I'm finding, as I went to my phone book, my SOI, and I'm inputting people in my database, and I'm doing these reach outs, I'm finding that some people don't want to have that relationship with me. Yeah. And these friends that I thought, right, that I had over the years, turns out they don't want to have that connection. So I think that's one of the things I'm dealing with is how do you deal with the disappointment of thinking that it was something, but it's not.
Well, it reminds me of high school, right? When you thought she liked you and she didn't. Here's the deal. That's just the name of the game. And you need to know who's you're truly in relationship with. Now, if you get out of a transactional mindset and into a relationship mindset, that will happen to you less and less. And the thing I've thought about has been this. My guess would be your phone is not rung off the hook with people checking in on you to see how you're doing, Brian. Yeah. And mine hasn't either. You know, and I think about like my mortgage company, they haven't called me to see how I'm doing, except if I don't make the mortgage payment, they're going to call and check on me. And so we have a transactional relationship. That relationship is purely one of, we gave you money, please pay it back. And it's not a relationship. We need to be in a relationship business. And what message do we send when we don't call? We send that we are in a transactional business. And real estate business doesn't grow transactionally. Someone shared with me that the biggest aha they've had recently is it is much easier to keep a current client than it is to find a new one. And it's cheaper, it's easier. And I gave an example of, I'm a very brand loyal person. So, you know, I fly the same airline when I fly. I stay in the same hotel brand when I travel. If it has this logo on it, I own it. Okay. So, you know, I'm very brand loyal. And the example I gave this morning was Disney was a great example. When Magic Kingdom opens again, we're probably going to go pretty early because I'm loyal to Disney and I trust them to do the right thing. And they've checked on me. Like they've reached out and said, hey, as a pass holder, we're an annual pass holder, we want to make sure everything's okay in your house. Here's some resources you can use. Like they've done that. So, you know, because I'm loyal to them, they're going to get some of my entertainment dollar when people are spending entertainment dollars again. Are you with me?
Yeah.
The same thing will happen to you from a real estate standpoint. If you can create people who are brand loyal to you, then when they're ready to transact, you're going to be it. You're not going to have happen what happened to Stephen. So if you can get out of that transactional mindset, and I get you, we're chasing the dollar. We want to make the next commission. We want to hit our goals, except the transformation that's got to happen is we hit the goals through the people, not around the people. And a transactional person hits goals around them. A relationship person hits goals through them. So embrace the relationships you do have. And, you know, so she wasn't that into you. Put her off to the side and embrace the relationships that you do have, Brian.
Appreciate that. I have a follow-up question to that too.
Yeah.
So thinking midterm, right? So like next 6 months, in Bold, there were scripts about having that initial contact and having that conversation surrounding how's it going with family forward, right? So how, maybe in like the next follow-up or DTD4, what do you?
This is where people sometimes think I'm a little weird. I live in I like to keep things really simple. I think success comes from people who keep things simple. So I look at the basic nuts and bolts of the script that we reviewed yesterday. Why wouldn't that be your call every quarter? Hey, I was just thinking about you, wanted to check in, see how you're doing, everything okay? What can I help you with? Anything? Well, if you come across somebody, I'm happy to help. That's fine. And then offer some kind of value. So this is where Aaron's turned on his camera. So Aaron, you got to wear a shirt with sleeves for your live video. I just want you to know, okay? I know you're proud of yourself. I want you to have some sleeves on. If you do videos every day, what happens is this: you're building relationship with people. Let me explain why. So I'm doing these videos every day now. People on the East Coast in Keller Williams have known who I am for a long time because I've done Bold up and down just about any market on the East Coast. Now that I'm meeting all these other people, we're getting packages delivered to my door for my daughter as gifts, as thank yous for the call I'm doing. I don't know these people, except do we have a relationship based on what's happening on video every single day that they would take time out to send stuff. One lady heard a story I mentioned before a call started about how my wife ruined some towels. Like 3 days later, we have new towels on our doorstep from some random agent. Then somebody else heard me talk about how I couldn't find toilet paper, and I bought some toilet paper and it came from Nicaragua and it should never be used by anybody ever. And like 3 days later, I have a 6-pack of toilet paper that's delivered to me from some agent in Massachusetts, because we build relationship this way. So I want you, if you do the videos, it helps with the relationship. Then you do the check-in, you don't have a lot to talk about. How are you? Wanted to check on you. What can I do for you? That's it.
Awesome. Thank you, James.
You're welcome. Hey, Alex, buddy, I got to scoot because we got the coaches thing coming up that I got to help them with. I hope this was of some value to you and your people.
It was. Thank you so much, James. I really appreciate you jumping on. Yeah.
Thank you,
Stephanie,
James.
I'm sorry I called you out. Your hand was raised. I thought you actually needed, and I didn't want you to get passed over.
No worries. Thanks.
Okay, and don't get attacked. And then I put my Instagrams in there. If you would follow me, that would be an honor. And Alex, thanks for the invitation. I appreciate you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you, James. Absolutely.
All right,
Thank you, James.
Thank you.
Awesome, guys. Well, hey, I know there's still, about 15 minutes left, and For those of you that weren't in Bold yesterday, it's funny because Brian, this is a little bit about, you were kind of talking about that midterm, what that may look like, but just to take it back just one step, like Dusty yesterday on Bold said something that kind of really stuck with me, right? And he goes, right now is going to feel, if you guys saw the chart, and if not, I'll have to show it to you, but right, it's be, do, achieve, right? Be, do, achieve. And Dusty, it was funny because he goes, right now may literally feel like be, do, be, do, be, do, right? And in a couple of months, 3, 4, whatever it may be in your business, right? We're going to feel like we're being, and we're doing, we're being, and we're doing, we're being, and we're doing, and then we're going to achieve, right? Because James just nailed it right on the head, right? Like, yeah, my phone, I'm not getting phone calls from anybody saying, how are you doing? Are you doing okay, right? And our business, like, I think we're all fortunate to be in a business that is relational, by nature. And so just know when you're right now, it may not feel like there may be results immediately, but just know that those actions right now are going to be the most important, right? Continue being, continue doing, continue being, continue doing repeatedly, right? And Brian, every time you share, it's definitely, whether it's on my face or internally, it's a big smile because I know you're doing it. And thanks for also sharing that, right? Like you're getting those calls that you go, oh, hey, here's the not so feel good, right? I'm calling people and they're like, yeah, don't ever call me again, right? Or, whatever that may be. But Brian, as much as, you asked the question, this goes to everybody, right? Don't get discouraged because someone doesn't want to be a part of your world, right? Just know that, if anything, be thankful that they were transparent about not really wanting to be in your world, because you imagine how many, not to discourage you, but how many other people are not being that transparent as they are to Brian, and you're still investing your time into them, right? You're 36 touching them, you're emailing them, you have them on your quarterly calls, right? So just know, guys, whether it's with me or whoever, let's make sure your models and systems are in place, right? And for any of those of you who have actually coached with me, don't get hung up on the words models and systems as this big, like, luxurious thing, dude. What is your checklist? What is your to-do? What is your habits? What are your standards, right? But just make sure right now we're figuring out exactly what it is that we can do for each and every one of you, that you look up and you go, because if you were in Bold yesterday, how many days does it take to create a habit?
66.
66 days, right? So you're not going to call people for 3 days and you're going to call indefinitely, right? Even at 66 days, right, you still have to wake up, right? But for it to start natural. Has anybody here started working out, right? Going to the gym? And yeah, thank you, Aaron. Yes. And have you noticed that, ironically, right? Like, it literally takes about 2 to 3 months before, you're legitimately feeling like, okay, this is my routine.
Yeah.
Right? That first week is the worst. It hurts. You're sore, right? Like, you're like, this was the worst idea ever. Week 2 isn't as bad, but you're still like, I'm waking up earlier, I'm staying later, I'm not at home sitting around on the couch, or sleeping in longer, right? And then weeks 3 and 4, you're just like, all right, maybe it's not so bad, but very easily, the wrong thing could drive you right back to what you were doing before, right? Brian, just to use an example in this case, right? Like, you get like just a bad week of people being like, yeah, dude, like, don't call me, right? Or don't do this, or, and you go, luckily, I think it's been the opposite. Luckily that wasn't like your first week, right? If that had happened your first week, you might be like, dude, this is for the birds, right? Like, why would anybody do this, right? Luckily, you've had some great success and having some like awesome conversations with your database, at least that you've shared with me, that you look up and now you can say, hey, even when it feels bad, I know it's good for me because look at all the good it's done even in a short amount of time, right? And so 66 days to build a habit. And I put this in the message, I wrote this out, and yes, it's in Shift, but if right there, very 4 simple things, guys, right? Practice your scripts. you guys know, when anybody that's coached with me, right? If you're asking me, I almost sound kind of like a broken record, and you're like hoping I say something different. And I'm like, yeah, just call them, tell them like you want to be in real estate. You know, that you ask them, depending on who you're calling, right? I want to be in touch with you, right? This is how I do that, right? I like to send you emails about your neighborhood. I like to check in quarterly, right? And when it's allowed, you know, I plan on throwing like, you know, a nice little like get together, like client appreciation party, right? And now people look up and you go, yeah, like, yeah, it would be kind of cool to be a part of that, right? If, you know, and some of these people may be like, yeah, if you do that, it's the first time I've heard from you in like in years, right? I know I have those people still to the day that just never, even when I've attempted, haven't picked up the phone, and in their minds, whether I've called or not, you know, they don't think I stay in touch. So what we can collectively do as a market center, guys, you know, he's got shift 54 through 57 in the comment section, right? All of us are going to gravitate towards something different, right? But let's know what it is that we can do right now and double down on it really well, right? Your database is exactly that. You know, Aaron, I know that Aaron and Brian had to have stuck out to you, right? DTD4, right? Mario, just a week and a half with us, and you know, you're just like, what are you talking about when you say DTD2, right? And we talk about that. And now Bold comes in, it's like, actually, it's going to be DTD4. Now call 2 of your groups a week, right? And what does that do? Now we're going to call our database in, you know, 6.5 weeks, and just a little over a month and a half, right? You may look up, and that may just become a habit of yours, right? You may look up and say, no, it's just natural of me to call my database 8 times a year,
Yeah.
Right? Is it sustainable? Great question, right? Obviously, your size of your database can play a role in that. But, you know, it's funny, and this is what I enjoy of Bold, right? You're either in the right mindset or in the wrong mindset. I know people have said that they don't enjoy Bold, and I've taken it. This will be my 3rd time taking it. I hated it the first time I took it. Totally the wrong mindset. I know that now, looking back, right? I'm sitting here telling myself, like, yeah, whatever, like, who really does this? Like, da-da-da-da. And now I look up and here I am, you know, 8 years later, and I'm just like, could I have been in a better mindset and not have lagged, you know, that year or 2 before I took it again, right? And now I watch it now with, you know, I feel like I have very clear, you know, just tons of clarity in what needs to be done and what the models mean, right? So just know that if you signed up for Bold, you have to, it's going to be very important for you to be in the right mindset during Bold, because it can come across like extreme, right? Yeah, if you have a large, right, Brian? I mean, you've been doing DTD2, right? And now to be like, hey, you thought that was cool? Call twice as fast now, right? Like, you know, but then you look up and you go, that is healthy, right? Was I not going to call my entire database for, you know, for 3 months, right? Could this all be over? And now, because how powerful is it calling right now during the shift, during the pandemic, right? That's all they're saying, right? No one else is doing, no other industry is calling people, checking in on them. We are, or you should be. And if you're not, get on it, right? But call your database, don't be afraid, and be service first, sales second, right? It's okay. Those scripts are, you know, like, I think for the first time ever, we get to, like, we think we're doing it because of the pandemic, and really you're going to wake up and realize, like, it's not because of the pandemic that I should just call people and ask how they're doing. It's just because, like, I just need to be a good human, a good friend, a good contact, a good, you know, whatever word you want to plug in there, right? Like, you're going to look up and say, dude, just because I genuinely check in on people and see how they're doing, like, I'm going to let my other touches take care of the real estate, really, right? And I know that kind of contradicts a lot of the things if you've read out there, right? Oh, always ask for the referral, always do this. But I think who here has read that script, thought about going to do it, and you go, this feels too salesy, like always asking for the referral, right? And it's because those scripts along the way always failed to address the mindset of, are you actually being genuine when you're calling your people? Are you being authentic, right? I know plenty of people that just because exactly that, I comment on their Facebook, ask them how their family's doing. sometimes I know I'm not even doing it on purpose. I'm legitimately wondering, like, dude, that's so cool, right? You know how many people have messaged me since, like, for any of you that follow me on Facebook, right, or Instagram, like, how many people have messaged me about the air fryer? And we're just talking about the air fryer, you know what I mean? Like, right? But then if I go and post, right, like, they're that much more likely to stay in touch with me because, Aaron, this ties back to what he brought up about the Facebook Lives, right? Like, a lot of us probably think, like, dude, how am I supposed to do a Facebook Live every day about real estate? And you go, who said it had to be about real estate?
Yeah.
Right? Can you just make a Facebook Live, feel people are included, that they're a part of your world, right? Because that's what you're accomplishing with videos like that, right? By the way, I'm talking to myself as much as I'm talking to you guys about that, right? Like, I don't do a Facebook Live video every day, right? But what is it doing? You're basically telling the world, I want to invite you into mine, right? And if you invite people in, you then really, now you've earned that right? It's another way to cement the relationship, allowing people into your world. Look at what I'm doing with the kids. Look at the air fryer I just bought. I just did a run, right? Mario, I just went cycling. Aaron, my girlfriend won't let me out of the house. So I'm kidding, man.
I'm a grown man. I'll make my decisions.
Yeah, so, like, I became friends with somebody on Instagram. Her name is Samantha, and same. You know, it's funny. Like, how many people have started following somebody on Instagram that you accidentally just came across because it was like a hashtag? They just came across. For me, it was like weightlifting, right? Like, and, right now, every day without fail on Instagram, it's not live, but, in her stories, right? Hey, captain's log, day 46 of this quarantine, you know what I mean? Like, and she does it every day without fail. And at this point, right, like, now I'm expecting her to do it, right? Before, you're like, you're not going to keep this up. It's going to be like day 3, you're going to give up. It's whatever, cute, not cute, who cares? Right. And, like, now she does it, and I'm just, like, waiting for it to come across as, like, one of the stories that I view on my Instagram of, like, yep, waiting for day 48, right? Like, what's new in your world today? And she posts like 20 times a day, and yet I'm still looking for, like, that 15 seconds to 30 seconds of her entire day that I'm like, yeah, where's your captain log, right? So just you have to look up and say, how am I going to allow people into my world, right? Like, social media is a great way to do it. Email, absolutely. And then calling, right? Calling is just going to have the biggest impact. But all right, so what questions do you guys have, right? I know, yes, it's very database focused. I know that can get tired to hear. I just want to make that clear, right? But don't overcomplicate it either. Don't think that there needs to be more. Yes, have your lead generation platforms, right? Are you going to generate leads on Facebook? Are you going to cold call, right? Are you going to do virtual open houses, right? But, and if you don't feel like you have that in place, let's talk about it. Bring it up. Go ahead. I'm happy to. But just know that we're not only just talking about database just because we don't have anything else to talk about. And Brian, I'm sorry to keep, picking on you, if you will. It's just, you're doing it at a very high level, if I have to say, right? And I hear from you 2 to 3 times a week about the successes you're having. So just don't take my word for it, right? Like, Brian is talking to his database, and how many people have come into your world that are going to be a potential opportunity / deal, like, since you started in February, right? So,
well, if you talk about all potentials, I'd probably say about 5+, but actual deals that have come from this since of 2 or 3,
yeah.
Which is actually more than before COVID.
Yep. Yeah. And guess what? Is anything I'm saying right now any different than when we're coaching one-on-one? Right?
No, I mean, even what James was talking about is the same thing.
Right. Yeah. So, and that's why it's like my goal this month, and pretty close to here on forward, that I want to bring on guest speakers, because the first time we talk about it, the second time we talk about it, maybe even the third time that you hear it from me, you go, okay, cool. The 4th and the 5th time, you're like, you have nothing better to say. I go, nothing better to teach you, right? Like, call your database, be genuine, ask them how they're doing, right? And when you bring on somebody, maybe to some of you right now to the day, James, who James is, may not have a ton of weight. You know, like I said, he's over on the East Coast. But like, if you were on Bold yesterday, you saw, and actually, no, you didn't have to be on. If you have the workbook from yesterday, the handbook, right? 3 pages in, they had 9 people, right, of the Bold coaches. Then, because you guys, if you were on the Shift Mastermind 3 weeks ago, right, I had Steven on, right? He's like a regional, like kind of Bold person, right? Like, and there was, you know, I think there was about 50 people on that list, right? And the regional, and Steven was in that list, right? When you scroll down past it, but before you did, there was 9 people. And James, ironically, was in the middle of the 9. So he kind of stood out because he was right in the middle, right? And people that are doing all of this at a very high level, I mean, the fact that he reached out and said, who would like for me to talk at their market center? I'm just like, yeah, me, please, right? And so, yes, you hear somebody who KWRI considers like one of just 9 people at a high level for Bold, one of the most important classes. And he gets on and he goes, call your database, call your database, call your database, right? Like, so what, again, sorry, what, I'm going to shut up right after this time, legitimately. What questions do you guys have right now that I can answer for you?
Alex, I have a suggestion real quick.
Yeah.
Something really powerful that James talked about was accountability with lead generation, because it really is 2 pillars if you've been Bold, right? It was the cut expenses and then lead gen. But that's still, even though I'm doing my database, not 4 hours a day, not 40 contacts, right? So for me, that whole accountability piece with Facebook living and then being on there together and, you know, being in the chat box, super powerful. But that's my weak point right now, is having accountability and doing it with other people.
Yep.
So I'm looking at, like, Guzman, I'm looking at you, man. If you want to do that and also open up to anybody who wants to do that, having a Facebook live, it doesn't have to be every day, but like twice a week for 4 hours, and just string it out in our lead gen.
How many of you would jump on if we set a time at least once a week as a market center and got on and all we're doing, we would mute ourselves, and all we would want to see is this, unless you got a Bluetooth speaker or a Bluetooth headset, then that would be, you know what I mean? Like, how many of you would jump on if we did that every Wednesdays? Always worked in the past, right? Like every Wednesday, and then morning or afternoon, right?
I would.
Steven, Mario, Aaron. I don't know if you raise your hand. I'm calling you out, Aaron. Christine.
50-50.
Awesome.
It's a 50-50, you know?
Yeah, well, you don't have to leave the house, so Kelly would. I'll make sure Kelly makes you get on. So.
I'm allowed to leave the house.
And during that time,
What would
you
we do
call.
when we got on?
Say that again, Christine.
I said, what would we do while we're on our headsets?
Call whoever you want. You can call your database. The question is, can you get? Look, guys. I may have to start filling out 2 of these a day, right? But like, so here's 1, 2, and I need to start today's, right? This week I grabbed my 20 contact sheet, right? You may not be able to.
What the hell is that?
Huh?
What the heck is that?
So this sheet, right? It's from Bold, and it's 20 contacts a day, right? And the reason there's 20 boxes here, you start at the top. And as I get a contact, I took care of my tithing. Then I took care of my taxes. Then living expenses, living, business. And the last 3, right, are fun. What was the intention when they made this sheet is, hey, as you get a contact, you're getting yourself closer to taking care of those aspects of your life, right? Tell me, well, Brian, you technically just answered it, right? How many people have you called every week?
Oh man, I don't know. At least 50 plus.
50 plus. All right, yeah. Guys. So called, and then how many of you actually connected with in that same? Like, out of the 50 you've called, how many of you actually connected with in that week?
It's different, right? So it's not just calls. It's like Facebook contacts, right? Emails, all that stuff. I mean, in that case, in my actual conversations that I've had in the past week, I'd say about 50 plus. Yeah. Actual conversations. With everything, digital and voice.
So what does that sheet say, right? James, you just heard him say 40 a day, right? What does that mean? 200 a week. Yeah, it's a lot, guys, right? I mean, if you really think about it, it gets even scarier, right? What is that saying? 800 a month, right? But like anything, if you break it apart, can all of us attempt to get on the phone and try to talk to 20 people in the morning and 20 people in the evening every day, right? Now, this sheet says 20. Yeah, this was bold. Like this sheet, I've had it since bold the first time I took it like 6 years ago, right? Now, at 20, right? You've talked to about 50, 20 a day says 100. So I'm just gonna, not picking on you by any means, but you're running at about 50% of even 20 a day, right? And even doing that since February, that you're running at about 50% of that sheet, you have you said 2 to 3 potential deals like that actually that came up that you never had if you had not been calling your database.
Yep, exactly.
About 3, right?
3, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So Brian, yes, he still needs to close them, but Brian, what's the point of that? In just doing, 10 a day, that he can directly say $30,000 in gross commission income. I'm just using the 10K average at this point, here for Phoenix, right? $30,000. Hey, Brian, like $30,000 is not your GCI goal for the year, but can you see where that compounded would help you take care of your tithing and then your taxes and then your business expenses, then your living expenses, and then finally where you can have some fun if you kept that up, right? Just in 10 a day, right? Imagine if you said, wait, what would happen in my world if I was doing, when Alex asked me that question, my answer was 100 plus and then 200 plus, right? Bold is pushing people to the limits for a reason, right? Like it may be the cheapest bold ever, but it's going to push everybody to the extreme. So, if you allow it to, right? You absolutely, first we decide to do, and then we actually do, right? We can all decide, yeah, I'm going to call 40 people and then not do it. So first you need to decide you want to do it, and then you need to do it, right? You guys all, regardless of reimbursement or not, you guys all invested $100 in yourself for now, right? Like, fortunately, it wasn't 800. I'll be the first to say it, right? Like, telling somebody to go spend $800 and believe you, right? Like, believe me, it's worth it is a tough sale. And I'm glad that, 41,000 people are taking advantage of Bold being this cheap. So,
yeah, but it's only worth it if you actually use it and do what they say.
Yeah, it could be the worst $100 you've ever spent if you don't. Every single one of us should have Bold. If you're taking it, sorry, like full disclaimer, right? If you're taking Bold, you're signing up for Bold. All of us, it should be in our calendar like an appointment. I've asked some people this question. How many people here would put a listing appointment in their calendar? There's a lot of people with no video. So, yep, Monia, thank you for the thumbs up. Perfect. So I'm going to pretend, even with the people without video on, that all of us, right? We all would put a listing appointment in our calendar. Okay, question number 2. How many of us would go to that appointment? Would you miss it for anything? Like, would anything else come up that you wouldn't go for it? Minus, like,
Never.
No, right? Like, minus maybe. Yeah. I would. My son, right? Like both my kids, right? Like my wife calls me and says the boys are hurt. I'm that's about the extent, right? Like something huge would have to happen. And so I've always found this funny, and I was guilty of it at one point, that we sign up for something like this and we don't treat it like an appointment. 11 o'clock shows up and you're like, yeah, it'll be there, right? But, Stephen, I think, James, it was you that asked and James replied to you, right? Like every time we see somebody else saying, I just bought a home, and you go, I'm going to say it, like, what the hell? Why not with me? Right? He said it best, like, hey, I hope that was hopefully one of not many expensive trainings right there, right, Stephen? $10,000 check, right? That you just, that hopefully that was a 30-second training that you paid $10,000 for. Why did they not use me? Right? And we look up, it's because, do we respect what it is that we need to do in our world? Do we call our database and check in with them? Do we show up to the trainings? Because how we do anything is how we do everything. If we're not showing up to our trainings, are you showing up to do your lead gen? Right? So I know it's 11:07 right now, guys. So we'll wrap it up. I appreciate everybody that jumped on. Hopefully that was beneficial for you guys. And you know where to find me if you need anything.
Thanks, Alex.
Yep. Talk to you.
You know where to find me.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Alex.
on the beach.
Thank you.
You're welcome, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Later.
Adios.